I'm Amanda Knox.
And I'm Christopher Robinson.
And this
is Who's Right? Between our usual Labyrinths episodes, we sit down to debate something quite serious.
Or silly.
And ask you, who is right?
It's me.
It's me.
It's me.
It's clearly me.
No, definitely me.
It's me.
Me?
No, me.
It's me.
How could it be anyone but me?
Says the man sleeping on the couch. All right, so yeah, our last episode was about eating disorders.
Eating disorders.
Yes, which raises the question...
Do we have eating disorders?
Yeah, do we have eating disorders?
Because I only eat in a 4-hour window.
Right, which is...
The internet bros call that intermittent fasting, but once upon a time, that would be an eating disorder.
Absolutely. I was just thinking, I've actually thought that before even this episode when I'm, preparing food for Eureka multiple times a day and I'm not partaking in it with her, which is not typically how you experience food ideally. You would experience it as like a communal thing. But of course, her growing body needs food differently than my not growing body needs
deteriorating
food. My
body.
Deteriorating body. And so I'm just wondering, we grew up in a world where if you didn't have 3 meals a day, you were unhealthy, but that obviously the science is no longer behind that necessarily. I'm kind of the opinion that we should teach our kids and model, by teach, I mean model the behavior of we should eat when we're hungry and not eat when we're not hungry in the same way that we've taught them how to sleep.
I mean, the macro question here is, how do you model diet for children, and what does a healthy diet look like, as I suppose is the question behind that question.
Right, because modeling or not, how do you have a good relationship with any kind of substance?
I haven't solved this problem even for myself. I still find myself having this craving type relationship with food often. And even when I narrow my eating window down to that 4 hours,
then you binge.
As soon as I hit my hour, I'm like, oh, it's time to have a snack,
Yeah, that's why I don't do intermittent fasting. Although I know there's science behind it. Maybe we shouldn't even mention this, that it allows your body to get into you cycle through the whole digestive process, so you're not constantly digesting something.
Yeah, I mean, some of the science is up for debate.
Okay.
I saw some stuff recently sort of casting doubt on the other supposed benefits of intermittent fasting and saying really the only benefit is the calorie restriction.
Really? Because I was
but
interested
there's
in
other studies that show that it reduces inflammation. I can say from personal anecdotal experience, I have mild reflux symptoms, and those are way less when my digestive system is less
constantly active.
Less active. And so if I'm only eating in one small window a day, there's less stomach acid irritating my laryngeal flap.
And I will confirm this, because prior to intermittent fasting, Chris would be all day long going,
yeah. It wasn't that bad. Yeah.
Just constantly. It was kind of driving me nuts.
Well, don't complain.
Yay, intermittent fasting. But at the same time, though, I'm, like I said, making meals for Eureka. And occasionally I have sat down to eat with her, not because I'm hungry, but because I feel like she should see me eating food.
That seems weird to me.
Is it weird?
I think she's going to be fine.
Yeah?
Yeah.
We're not giving her some weird complex?
Are you worried that she's going to develop some weird complex because she sees me not eating food?
Yes, that would be the concern.
Is that your worry?
Yes.
I know that when I was a kid, I also got the not only 3 meals a day, but clear your plate.
Yeah, I got the clear your plate thing too.
Children are starving in China and India,
And typically this was not a problem for me because I wolfed down food when I was a kid. However, if I was given something that I didn't like the taste of, I remember I was given a tuna fish sandwich that I just sat at the table all day.
Because you weren't allowed to leave?
I wasn't allowed to leave until I finished it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Yep.
You were stubborn.
I was stubborn. I just sat there and
I mean, does being a mom now change your attitude about the clear your plate thing of just God damn it, kid, just eat this,
So I will say that for some reason, it doesn't seem like our bodies crave what we actually need, which is confusing to me because, I mean, maybe she doesn't need vegetables as much as
It seems
in my
crazy
brain
to think that she doesn't need vegetables, right?
Right?
She can't just crave waffles.
Or
it's not just what she
white
what her
bread,
body needs.
Yes,
Yeah.
like I feel like she needs vitamins, but she doesn't crave them.
No,
So
we're living in a world where we have foodstuffs that are genetically engineered to.
But I crave salads. I guess that's the thing I don't understand is like, if I'm craving it, why is she not craving it? And is it because she hasn't, like, I know that kids have a different palate than we do. And so vegetables taste bitter to them, which is why there are all of these Instagram stories being sent to me of how to hide vegetables in things like cookies and waffles.
I feel like that's developing an eating disorder.
When you're having to hide the good food in the bag.
Hide veggies inside cookies.
Well,
it's
no.
So
the idea is that you can make and enjoy something like a cookie, but it's not a sugar bomb.
Yeah.
It's got beans and vitamins and fresh fruit in it, and it tastes amazing. And you just call it a cookie.
Yeah. I mean, but even that, like, shouldn't it be okay to eat some vegetables?
Well,
like I feel like
explain that to the child.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. Or some people like the idea of having a treat. Like I remember when I gave up alcohol for being pregnant, the first thing I felt like was not that I needed alcohol, but I was like, where's my special drink at the end of the day?
Well, maybe your body was like,
drink.
I was getting sugar through the alcohol. Now I need sugar from some other source.
Yeah. Sugar is just as bad, isn't it?
But we gave up sugar this year, and we haven't been draconian about it because you've slipped a few times.
It was by accident.
On my birthday, I had some ice cream.
Yeah.
I don't feel bad about it.
You don't feel bad about it.
But for the most part, we have not been eating desserts.
Why did we get on this train again? Oh, because we had been drinking alcohol. And I think we, like over the pandemic, like many people, our alcohol intake just increased. And then I got pregnant and we were like, you know what? Cold turkey, motherfucker.
We quit alcohol for a year and that felt great. And
then we were like,
brought it
what
back
else
in moderation.
Can we do?
Yeah, now we're the kind of people who quit something for a year at a time. And who knows what we're going to quit in 2025. But for this year, we're quitting sugar. And we still eat natural sugar.
Yes. So honey.
Dates, fruit, whatever.
Yeah.
But we're not eating refined sugar. We're not pouring simple syrup into drinks. We're not eating cake, And I'm mostly fine with that because I've always had a savory palate anyway. But is that sort of relationship with food also, it's not the same, in the ideal that I think we want to live in and that we would want our children to live in. It's more like all things in moderation.
Yes.
Eat until you're full.
Probably mostly plants, but also a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
And cold turkey excising things out of your diet a year at a time is not the image of that ideal relationship with food.
So here's the other thing that I think about when I think about an ideal relationship with food is I think about how just distanced we all are from what it takes to make food. So, we cook a lot, which is great. That's a start. I think that anybody who's just microwaving their dinners is like a whole other step away from the manufacturing food process. And I think because we cook, we appreciate our food more than if we were just buying it.
Yeah.
However, I think about maybe one thing that would convince Eureka, but also anyone, is if they really had more of a hands-on process with like growing the vegetables or slaughtering the animal. Like maybe you wouldn't eat meat as much if you had to slaughter an animal every time you had to have that chicken breast.
I wouldn't eat bread as much if I had to thresh the grain and pound it in a mortar and pestle.
I hear you. And baking is like such a hassle. Like
if I could only eat bread when we baked our own bread, I would probably not eat bread.
We'd probably be healthier for it.
Don't make me give up bread.
No, I'm just saying maybe we just bake our own bread.
Yeah. I mean,
and then it's like we have no time to do this and then we don't eat bread.
I think the imagination is a powerful tool here because I will often, while eating something delicious, be thinking about the fact that tomatoes come from South America and that
Are you?
Yeah, I do. And I'm like, this pizza that I'm eating is like an Italian invention with a New World nightshade fruit that got stewed down and mixed with salt from a salt mine in South Africa onto bread, and with cheese from a water buffalo, right? Like all these distinct regions of the globe and types of and animals and plants and all these things
what is the udder
came
of a
together
water buffalo
to make pizza, right? So I am appreciating all that goes into it in my mind without having to grow the tomatoes myself or yank the udder of that water buffalo.
I feel like I need to yank an udder, though. I feel like I really need to appreciate that.
You want to live on a farm, is what you're saying.
Or even if it's not live on a farm, like go to a farm and
have done it enough that you can viscerally just close your eyes
and be like, that's the udder feeling. I don't know. I mean, when I was producing milk out of my body, I had a way more appreciation for milk.
We were just visiting some friends in Italy who have a farm, and they had a bunch of goats, and we saw them milking the goats, and then we tried some of the cheese they made. They make cheese every week. That kind of relationship with your cheese,
right?
Which you eat a lot of cheese.
I love cheese. Maybe we need a goat.
Okay, I think we're getting a little off base here.
The only way to have a healthy relationship with food is to have goats.
Is to grow all your own vegetables, make everything like a early agricultural human.
And really, if we really wanted to be super healthy, we would just hunt and gather.
No, I mean, do you think we buy healthy food? Is our house filled with healthy food? What's the balance?
I think we tend to lean on the healthy side, but I've often thought, why aren't we going to all these great farmers markets or farmers stands that are all over the island?
That's a separate question.
Is it? Because
farmer
those
stands don't sell tortilla chips is why. And we're busy and we have 2 kids. And do you want to make 5 stops or 1 stop? That's your answer. But
we should be bicycling to each one of those stops.
My question is about, we buy a lot of vegetables. We eat vegetables frequently in our cooking.
But we also eat a lot of nachos.
We make nachos too, and nachos are damn good. Now, we do put peppers and make a slaw with red cabbage and all this other stuff, right?
Yeah, but it's not the same as
still
eating
a base
salad.
of like chips.
Chips and cheddar cheese.
Yeah, and it's damn good. Do Eureka's already been like, I want nachos, right?
It's true.
How do you feel about that? Is it fine?
She's never saying, I want salad.
No, she's not. I'm not worried about that for some reason. Are you worried about that?
I'm a little worried about that. Like, I remember snacking on red peppers when I was a kid, and I've given her red peppers, and she doesn't want them. What am I doing wrong?
I feel like having a meta-level anxiety about food and about your body in particular, to come back to the eating disorder thing, is probably the biggest, most important negative thing in this world.
Yeah,
it's not so much what you eat, but it's your attitude around it.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I do not have the most healthy attitude around it.
Because I think these are related questions. There's like healthy eating, and then there's a healthy psychology around eating. And you can be a person who has a really healthy psychology around food and yet is really overweight and has a terrible diet. But you don't have body image issues, and you enjoy your food, and you're just like, whatever, I like food and it's good, and and you eat what you want to eat, but you're not like beating yourself up because of your beer belly, right?
Right.
And then there's people who have really healthy diets,
but then have anxiety,
but have a horrible psychology around food, and they don't enjoy food, and they beat themselves up because they don't look exactly the way they want to look, and they feel guilty when they eat a cookie and all that stuff, right?
Right.
What we're shooting for here is the best of both worlds. You want a healthy diet and a healthy relationship with food.
Okay.
Right? But if I never get to eat nachos again...
I wasn't saying never. I was just saying we eat nachos a lot. It's kind of obscene how much we eat nachos. Hey, listeners. Thanks for tuning in. This podcast would not exist without your support.
Please consider becoming a patron. Visit patreon.com/Knox Robinson. For as little as $5 a month, you can get ad-free episodes and join our online community.
We even offer signed books and live monthly video hangouts.
We're all navigating our own personal maze.
And you don't have to be stuck in a prison cell to feel trapped in your own life.
Our mission with Labyrinths is to find growth and resilience through trauma, and we do that with a commitment to our core values.
Curiosity in a time of outrage. Compassion as a tool for understanding.
And the courage to ask hard questions and avoid easy answers.
So please, grow with us. Join our community. Visit patreon.com/Knox Robinson.
I mean, what do you think of Michael Pollan's distillation of this rule? His rule of like,
eat everything, it's mostly vegetables.
Mostly plants.
Yeah, mostly plants.
Eat food.
Yeah, eat food.
Yeah, so like actual food, not things. And he defines food as like, if you can't pronounce any of the ingredients, it's not food.
Right.
Right?
Right. If you don't know what it's made of.
Yeah, I think it's eat food, not a lot, mostly plants.
Right.
How much are we hitting that box?
We need to hit the mostly plants part more.
Yeah. What about the not a lot?
Well, you don't eat a lot. You only eat in a 4-hour window. It's just you eat a lot in that 4-hour window.
It's true.
I don't eat a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't have that window
And Eureka
thing.
definitely doesn't eat a lot.
No.
I want her to eat more.
You know who's a great eater, though? Echo.
Yeah, our son is a great eater. It's true.
He eats everything we put in front of him.
Well, I feel like Eureka was like that, too. And now she's in a phase where she just wants waffles.
We
Okay.
put zucchini in.
So let's come back to our thesis question here.
Okay.
We're trying to model a healthy diet. We're trying to model a healthy attitude towards food.
Mm-hmm.
I think cooking our food is a big part of that. Actually, I read this thing from Alan Watts the other day, talking about how
your guy,
my guru, talking about how in his eyes, the most important thing you can do with food is to treat cooking like an act of reverence, like a ritual, and it's just like a sacred thing. And that is, I think, a more doable step than us having goats and growing our own wheat, and all that stuff. Is like we can sit there and like acknowledge that someone else worked hard to bake this bread. And and when we cook, we can like really like pay attention and just be present and aware with what the ingredients are.
Well, this is why I'm saying that farm stands are where it's at, because if you're not doing the growing yourself, at least you can be more directly exposed to the growing process. And you get that from just going to the farm and seeing where the things are grown as opposed to going to the grocery store. I feel like you're speaking from a position of radical privilege here too. Like, well, I'm saying that as someone who has a plethora of farm stands,
which are
in my
very
vicinity.
Lucky to have a bunch of farm stands nearby.
I'm just saying that people have farmers markets where
farmers market's not the same as you don't get to see the farm.
That's true, but you talk to the people who grew it.
Maybe, or you talk to a guy they paid $12 an hour
also
to
true.
hand you zucchinis.
So you're saying farmers markets are glorified grocery stores?
Some there's the actual farmers, and you can ask them questions about the farming.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like when you wander through a farmer's market, you're more connected to the growing process somehow than wandering through the grocery store?
I mean, the grocery store is so clinical. Like, yes, I feel like even if it's just because it's a little bit messier at a farmer's market, like things aren't perfectly stacked in towers of lemons, like...
Kind of they are. Farmers markets, they're filled with artsy people. They stack their stuff nicely.
But you see them stacking them. I don't know. Like,
maybe I think what we're getting at here, or I think what your position is, tell me if I'm wrong, is that understanding the whole process of where food comes from and how it gets to you and how you eat it and how you cook it, like the more knowledge you have about what's going on there, the more likely you are to have a healthy relationship with food.
Yes, I would say that. The more exposure you have to, in the same way that anything that you take for granted, like you don't want to take food for granted.
Does that include having a nuanced understanding of diet? Like what actually is happening when your body metabolizes sugar? understanding digestion. Like, should we be talking to Eureka about those things? Should we be educating ourselves more of like, how does your blood sugar spike? What does that mean?
I think that would be really smart. I could use more education in that. I think the thing that I've enjoyed talking to Eureka about is just the very basics of food goes in here, out there. And it's interesting, all the stuff that happens in between. And because we've had that talk already. She's like, didn't know.
She didn't understand that poop was food.
Yeah. I had to explain to her that
sometimes my body just makes this stuff.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's food. And she's like, what? That was a good day.
What's the like?
And I've talked to her about her with the food we've eaten too. Like when we're eating the shrimps, like I said, okay, this is a shrimp. And she's like, what's a shrimp? And then I like bring up a little video of a shrimp that's alive.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so this is the shrimp body and this is where the head was. And we cut off the head and we took off the legs and all the things. And now it's yummy. And did she end up eating the shrimp after that?
No. I want to know what you think you're at a pretty good place right now with your relationship to food, right?
I could have a healthier
Yeah, but I want to know, like, when were you at your lowest? When were you at your worst? Most distorted or least healthy relationship with food?
Well, I've had stages of that. So going through puberty was an ordeal because my body was changing so much and I didn't know what my body needed. So I was just like, blah, blah, blah. And it was just confusing and distressing was my relationship with food. It was also like the point in my career as a person where I realized that I couldn't just eat whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, and there not be consequences anymore. So puberty was rough. Then, of course, prison was rough because I did not have control over my food, and it tended to be very, very unhealthy food. So I didn't eat a lot of food, and I became, like, at times I got bigger and at times I got smaller. I think I gained like maybe, 10 to 15 pounds in prison, but then I also like shrank down and lost, like 20 to 25 pounds from that height. So I was wildly fluctuating in prison because of that. And then, again, pregnancy, like body changing, things are happening. You have to redevelop a relationship with food. And then you're trying to get, after pregnancy, you're trying to get back to your body again, which is kind of a myth because it's appropriate for your body to be forever altered after you have kids. However, you like to be fit and whatever. Like if you have a fit person mindset, you want to do that. And your relationship with food plays in with that. I don't know. I've had like lots of...
It sounds like it's been a roller coaster.
It is a roller coaster. And trying to figure out like, what does my body need right now as opposed to when I was going through this or when I was going through that is very different. And so I've had to like really learn to trust my body and to hear my body.
I mean, I grew up in a 80s no fat, low fat household.
Oh, God.
Right? Where like my parents had just... And I don't blame them because it was everywhere. And like scientists and nutritionists were saying this, don't eat fat. Fat's bad for you.
Right. Eat margarine.
Right.
And so, fake sugar.
We didn't have butter in my house. We had margarine. And we had every, every box of crackers or cookies or whatever, and it was low fat milk and it was, no fat cookies. And it's
my God. Right? No fat cookies.
I know. And so I grew up with this like toxic fear of fat to the point where like when I would eat bacon, I would peel off the white part.
But still eat bacon.
Yeah. Bacon was delicious. I just didn't want to eat. And I thought fat was kind of gross. And I didn't understand why anyone would ever eat it. And I remember stumbling in at like 10 years old and seeing my parents watching some like infomercial-y type guy giving some talk about nutrition. And he was just like yelling at the crowd and shaking his finger and being like, just don't eat fat.
Yeah. It's like dirt.
Yeah.
Which is so, actually, like, it's funny. At my Oma's house, she had the margarine thing too, but it's so funny because she was still a German woman. So she would still get the bratwursts and, all of the sausages and things that were just chock full of fat.
Yeah.
But she'd be like, but I have margarine.
Yeah. So like that was the background radiation, and then the other background radiation, and I say this as a dude, like I was seeing comic book heroes and, Brad Pitt and like various male role models with their shirts off and their six-pack abs. And I developed a sense of like what I should look like as a man.
Yeah, but
and so when I was going through puberty,
you had Biggie though.
I didn't know about Biggie when I was in 8th grade. But even so, like, that's not the dominant image of like what a successful man looks like, right?
Sure.
And so on the one hand, I'm being told I have this like, don't eat fat, low fat, no fat, all this stuff.
Be ripped.
And then also be ripped. And then when I went through puberty, like my body grew in awkward phases and I felt really bad about my body for a while. And that was my first like, doing crunches in my room at night, hoping that I would be, less pudgy when I was 13,
Because you weren't in sports.
No, not really, no.
I was deep in sports, so I didn't have to worry about working out.
Yeah. And then when I was like 21, a girlfriend dumped me and I couldn't wrap my brain around why she would dump me because I'm so awesome. And, the thing I settled on was like,
what is wrong with you?
I just must not be fit enough, like I didn't vocalize that to myself, but looking back on it, like what I found myself doing was like going on runs a lot. And then I started eating like just tuna out of the can with like lemon juice and black pepper. And I was eating that
Classic.
a lot. And I was trying to be like, well, I just need to look more like Brad Pitt.
Yeah. You know what's wrong with me?
You know what's wrong? The reason she dumped me is like I just wasn't ripped enough.
I don't look like Brad Pitt.
And I don't think that
I don't think I had
yeah, right? I didn't have a healthy psychology around food in that moment. And I erroneously was tying my whatever her reasons were to that was not at all her reasons. And then
I love your confidence
as the
child,
years have
like
gone on.
I can only wish upon our children your level of confidence. I'm so awesome. No one would ever break up with me.
Well, and the confidence to acknowledge that I was wrong.
Yes, indeed.
I didn't have that wrong admitting power back then.
When did you develop that?
I don't know. It was gradual. Yes. You came at the right time.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So I know what it feels like to have that like really draconian restriction mindset around food. And I had that for, I don't know, maybe a year or so. And I grew up with that like, no, don't touch fat, kind of thing. And it took me a long time to figure out how to like fat. And now I put butter on everything.
Oh, yeah.
It's so good. And,
I've actually like licked butter off of knife, like, the butter knife.
Yeah.
I've totally just licked the butter
or
off.
even like eating like pork belly is something that's like big chunk of fat there, and I can do that now. There's something deep in me that's still a little bit like, if it's just a big pure chunk of fat, I can't just maw on that,
Yeah, I don't imagine like holding a ball of fat up in my hand and chomping on it like an apple. Do people do that though?
Well, I mean, there's if you go to fancy enough restaurants,
they do fried butter sticks, right?
It's true at county fairs. Yeah, deep fried butter.
I've just that has always perplexed me. How.
But you know what? Those people sound like they don't have an unhealthy psychology around food, right? Is that?
I don't know.
I mean, it sounds like a horrible thing for your body that would probably lead to all kinds of health problems.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to deep fry butter, you certainly don't have a bunch of anxiety about what you're eating.
Yes, I suppose that's a way of spinning it. I just want to know who Did someone accidentally drop butter into a fry?
No. No, it's a systematic thing. Can we fry this? Can we fry that? Can we fry that? Can we fry
the frying
fat? Yeah. So do we have any conclusions here?
I think our conclusion we reached before, which was know what's healthy for you, but also have a healthy mindset around it. And then, and everyone's different. Everyone's a little different.
Mm-hmm.
So keep that in mind.
I mean, I guess let's return to my question about eating the fried butter. Like, is it actually a healthy psychology to not really care at all what you're eating? Like, it's nice that you don't have anxiety and that you're not like restricting yourself and feeling guilty. Like, those are all positives. But maybe it's not enough to just not have any of those negatives, right? You need to
you should know. Well, and that goes back to knowing how food affects you. Like, if you're eating a fried
but what if you
butter
know and just
stick,
don't care? I mean, it's like the people who are smoking and it's like, yeah, this is going to kill me. I'm fine with it.
I don't know if
like,
that
you don't
means they're
be...
fine with it.
No?
I feel like that means they're addicted to it.
Well...
Maybe you're addicted to bad food? I don't know.
I mean, certainly there's that reverence thing we were talking about, right? Having a appreciation for where the food came from, whether that's an animal or whether that's a person who baked a loaf of bread, whatever
I think you should also
right?
think of your body as a sacred object, though.
And
if you're like, it's a garbage bin for my whatever garbage I want to eat, that's not treating it like a sacred object.
It sounds like what we're arriving at is that your relationship with your body is intimately tied in with your relationship with food.
Right.
And that a healthy relationship, a healthy psychology around food requires not just a sort of knowledge of where food comes from and how it interacts with you, but also respect for food, for the places it comes from, the people who make it, and a respect for your own body.
Right.
So how do we model that?
That's a good question for our audience.
Yeah.
We would love to hear your thoughts on this. So let us know if we are crazy.
And if you have any interesting periods of your life where your relationship with food was...
Were you ever Soylent
distraught?
people? Remember when people were
Soylent.
into Soylent?
Yes.
Has anyone a Soylent person? I would love to talk to you about your Soylent life.
All right. Well, you know where to find us. You can reach us at amandaknox.com.
And on all of our socials, Twitter at Amanda Knox.
At ManUnderBridge.
Instagram at Amama Knox.
At MC Carbon.
And thanks for listening.